Also, good morning to everyone. We could get our meeting started. I'm Gerasimos Rosados. I am the acting chair, the acting director for the Oil Conservation Division, and I'm also the acting chair for the Oil Conservation Commission. I just want to make sure that you all can hear me in Pecos Hall. Can someone just let me know if they could hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Excellent. Thank you. This is the continuation of our hearing for that was set for April 7th through the 11th. It is the Oil Conservation Commission hearing that we have. I am under the weather, so I am in my office. I will be on the Teams platform for the meeting. I did want to bring our meeting to a start and get it started for us today. So I'd like to do a roll call. As I said, I'm Gerasimos Rosados. I am the acting division director for the Oil Conservation Division, and I'm also the acting commission chair for the Oil Conservation Commission. I will now switch it over to Commissioner Mpoma. I'll switch it over to you for roll call.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Dr. William Ampoma, Professor Petroleum Engineering from New Mexico Tech, and also the designee of the Energy Secretary. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Then Mr. Ramkin.
I don't know if you wanted to call Greg or myself.
Well, let's do you right now for the actual hearing, and then I'll also get Commissioner Bloom as well. I was leaving him last.
Okay. Balin Lampkin, designated of the Commissioner of Public Lands.
Excellent. Thank you. And Commissioner Bloom.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Greg Bloom. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for Mineral Resources at the New Mexico State Land Office, and I am the designee of the Commissioner of Public Lands. I'll be stepping out of the meeting after we finish up some preliminary matters. I'm not participating in the Goodnight Empire case. Mr. Lampkin will be hearing that for the Land Office. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Bloom. So that brings our meeting to its start. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the April 7th through the 11th, 2025 agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Excellent. So our agenda is approved for today. Our third item is the approval of the March 11th and March 20th, 2025 meeting minutes. Were there anything that we needed to discuss for the meeting minutes? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I have not had time to review the March 11th meeting minutes. I'd just like to go over those and check them against my notes. If we could do that at a future meeting, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, we could potentially move them. Okay, are you okay with the March 20th meeting notes, Commissioner?
Mr. Chair, I am, and I would move to approve those.
Okay, Commissioner Mpoma, are you okay with the meeting minutes?
Yes, and I second.
Okay, so we'll approve the March 20th commission minutes. Commissioner Bloom, maybe in 2 weeks, if you can pop back on for the next phase of the hearing that we have scheduled, and hopefully we can get the March 11th meeting minutes approved at that point. Is that okay?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the additional time.
Excellent. Thank you. Sheila will approve the March 20th commission minutes, and we'll move the approval of the March 11th commission minutes to our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay, I got it.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, that takes us now to our pending cases. The first case that we have for today is case number 24683, which is the application of the Western Environmental Law Center Citizens Caring for the Future Conservation Voters New Mexico Education Fund, the Dene Care Earthworks, Naiva, New Mexico Interfaith Power and Light, and San Juan Citizens Alliance, and the Sierra Club to amend 1915.2, 19.15.5, 19.15.8, 19.15.9, and 19.15.25 of the New Mexico Administrative Code. The matter to be heard is a status conference. Are all the parties present? I always usually start when I'm there on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side of the screen. So in this instance, I will start with Mr. Rankin. Is that you? I can't see very well.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Adam Rankin appearing on behalf of OCC in this case.
Excellent. Thank you. Who's next to you? I apologize.
My colleague, Mr. Nathan Jurgensen, who is actually not appearing in that case with me, but he is sitting next to me.
Okay, great. Well, let's just say who else is here for the case number 24683. It'll just make it easier. Ms. Fox.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, my name is Tanis Fox. I'm a lawyer with Western Environmental Law Center representing applicants. And the matter with me today is Morgan O'Grady, and online is Matt Nikeo.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Fox. Mr. Tremaine.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, commissioners. My name is Jesse Tremaine, representing the Oil Conservation Division.
Excellent. And anybody on the platform that I may have missed?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Andrew Cloutier and Ann Tripp of Hinkle Shaner on behalf of Independent Petroleum Association of New Mexico.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair and commissioners. This is Miguel Suazo with Beatty and Wozniak appearing today on behalf of the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Suazo. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Matthias Sayer appearing on behalf of EOG.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Sayer. Appreciate it. Anybody else, just to make sure that we get everybody? Perfect. I believe we had left it off, Ms. Fox and Mr. Tremaine. You were leading the conversations the last time we had met. So which one of you would like to start for us?
Mr. Chair, this is Jesse Tremaine. I circulated this morning an updated draft third amended notice. That includes some new dates. The goal of that was to represent to the commission that I think we largely have agreement on the direct and rebuttal filing dates, which were the primary drivers of previous discussions about scheduling. I also caught that we needed to change another date or two in there, but it's been pointed out to me that we actually need to address a couple other residual April dates that I did not catch. And I believe Ms. Fox has some comment on the notice.
Okay, Ms. Fox. Thank you, Mr. Tremaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. The proposal now is, you might recall at the last meeting, the commission set the hearing date for October 20th of this year. We hope that the hearing will go only 2 weeks, but we've set aside 3. And the parties have agreed, I believe, to filing direct testimony and exhibits on July 25th. And filing rebuttal testimony exhibits on September 5th. And then preliminary to that, applicants have committed to filing an amended application on April 25th. That date hasn't changed from what we proposed during the last status conference. And so what we would intend to do is when we file that amended application, we will file an amended notice of hearing with the dates that I just identified, along with any significant changes to our proposals. And we appreciate all the parties' coordination on these dates.
Excellent. Ms. Fox, I do have a question for you. You stated starting October the 20th, correct? That's what we had said?
October 20th.
Okay, yes. So, Mr. Tremaine, your amended Exhibit B has that the hearing begins October the 14th.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that was, I did not catch that needed to change
Okay.
when I updated.
Okay.
So my thinking was we needed to just update the direct testimony and rebuttal dates. And then I saw the other April date and changed that. But I think there actually is still another April date that needs to be updated. And then I neglected or did not notice that we needed to change that hearing date.
Okay. So should we set this to come back in 2 weeks, to have another scheduling conference?
Mr. Chair, I would say no. I believe that we've settled everything that the parties had concerns with, resolved that by agreement. And so I think we can just make those updates, as Ms. Fox indicated, as the petitioner. They will have, they're submitting a revised petition here by the April 25th. So the commission will have that, an updated one along with that petition as an exhibit to that petition in a couple weeks.
Okay. So then, if I'm hearing everything correctly, we are set to go to get this ball rolling, right?
Mr. Chair, we are set to go.
Excellent. Okay. It'll be monumental for all of us, and it's a good task that we're going to be on. So if there's nothing else for this one, I think we are kind of set. We'll get all the paperwork from you all. Once you finalize it, you'll submit it to the commission. And we're going to start having deadlines, people. So let's definitely make sure that we get it all straightened out, and the commission has its work cut out for it. But thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. If there's no other comments on this one.
Mr. Chair, so this
Yes.
is Dr. Ampoma. I want
Yes,
to be
doctor.
sure, are we starting on October 20th to when?
Well, as Ms. Fox stated, they've initially set it for 2 weeks. So for sure, October 20th through probably the 31st, which is a 2-week stint. Is that doable, doctor, with your schedule?
Yeah, that is doable, but if we get into the following week, then I'm not available. So,
Okay. So I think what we do is let's start it on the 20th, like we've set. And then if we have some scheduling issues, or if we see that it gets a little out of hand, we can pick a date at that time. Or we can just not meet a specific date if you have a date that you can't do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
Is that
Chair,
okay?
Mhm.
Yeah. Go ahead,
I've-
Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've already reserved that week of November 3rd. I don't know if other people did as well in case we need it. I guess leave it there, and we can see if there's a few days that Dr. Ampoma could meet that week if necessary. Dr. Ampoma, do you need to be off the entire week?
No, I can be around, let's say, at the earlier portion of the week, probably up until Wednesday, and I do have international travel.
Okay.
Very good. I'll leave it as reserved on my schedule. And
Yeah, let's leave it on the schedules as needed. Ms. Fox and Mr. Tremaine, let's try to make the 2-week if we possibly can, okay? Excellent. I see the back of your heads nodding. I've got the backside view this time. So, okay, great. Thank you all. Okay, if nothing else on this particular case, we can move on to our actual case. Thank you, everybody.
I'm going to step out. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, Commissioner Bloom. Okay, we're going to switch over now to our second case for the day. It is our consolidated cases by Goodnight Midstream and Empire, New Mexico. They are case numbers 24123, 23614 through 17, case number 23775, and case numbers 24018 through 24020 and 24025. This is the matter to be heard by the commission. It's the continuation of the evidentiary hearing. I'll just start off as always to make sure that all of our parties are present. I will start again on the right-hand side of the room with Mr. Adam, your last name left me. I apologize. Rankin. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rankin. My apologies. We'll start with you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Adam Rankin with the Santa Fe Office of Holland and Hart, appearing on behalf of Goodnight Midstream Permian LLC in these cases. And to my right is my colleague, Mr. Nathan Jorgensen, who's also appearing in these cases as well.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Padilla, we'll switch over to you.
Mr. Chairman, Ernest Elpadilla for Empire. With me are Dana Hardy and Sharon Shaheen.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll go to the back table next to Ms. Shaheen.
That is our client here.
Oh, I forgot. Yes, my apologies. Thank you, Ms.
No,
Shaheen.
no worries.
I am under the weather. I apologize for that. Mr. Beck, we'll move on to you.
Morning, Chair, Commissioners. Matt Beck with Pfeiffer Law Firm on behalf of Rice Operating Company and Permian Line Service, LLC.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Chris Melander on behalf of the New Mexico Oil Conservation Division.
Excellent. Mr. Melander, thank you. On the platform, who do we have?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners and Mr. Hearing Examiner. This is Miguel Suazo with Beatty and Wozniak appearing today on behalf of Pilot Water.
Excellent. Anybody else on the platform? I believe that's all of us. So everybody is present. Mr. Hearing Officer, we transfer the hearing over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Rosado. Sorry you're under the weather. The weather this week is supposed to be great, so hopefully you'll improve along with it. Do we have, Ms. Apodaca, do we have a court reporter present and typing?
Yes, we do.
Is that Kendra Tellez? Good morning, Kendra. Nice to see you again. All right. Okay, so Mr. Chairman Rosado's did all the heavy lifting, and I do have from Ms. Hardy an email from March 25th setting out the order of your next 5 and last 5 witnesses, correct?
That's correct.
Ms.
Mr.
Hardy,
Chairman.
let me ask you, is this first witness, Deacon Merrick, is that synonymous with the Frank Merrick in this unopposed motion that's pending?
It is. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So with that preamble, let me ask the parties, are there any preliminary matters?
I had one, Mr. Examiner. I don't know if Mr. Rankin has any, but
Okay.
and I wanted to raise this at this point for the commission's consideration. And I know we're not to our closing arguments yet, but Empire would prefer to have oral closing arguments rather than written. And I don't know what the commission's position is on that. I think, Empire would like to have a decision as soon as possible due to the ongoing injection into its unitized interval. And in these cases, occasionally we do written closings and occasionally we do oral closings. And here we wanted to request an oral closing so that we can avoid waiting for transcripts and then waiting for briefing deadlines and a written closing. But understand that's up to the commission, but wanted to mention that issue for the consideration today.
Okay, thanks. Have you discussed that with your opponents?
I have
Mr.
not
Rankin?
had a chance to do that.
Okay. What's Goodnight's thoughts?
Well, we had previously kind of discussed it some time ago about what we all thought. And I think at that time we were thinking, given the nature of the case, the importance of it, and the record that would need to be established, that at least as to findings of fact and conclusions of law, that it would be beneficial both to the commission in its review of the extensive record and the facts and evidence, and to any appellate court reviewing the record, to have each party's final presentation of the findings of fact and conclusions of law. And in addition to having that, I think it would be also helpful for the commission and for any reviewing court to have the parties' positions on the legal issues that are entwined with this case. So I don't disagree with Ms. Hardy that I think we could do an oral closing, but I do, however, believe it'd be important for the commission to have written findings of fact and conclusions of law, and have some representation on the record of the what the parties' views are on the standards applicable for each of these cases, and the evidentiary burden, which has been an issue that's been discussed throughout the preliminaries of this case. So I'll just say, in short, to sum, that I have no problem summarizing orally the arguments and legal arguments at the conclusion, but I do believe I would lobby for written findings of fact, conclusions, and at least a legal brief of some kind, legal closing, so that the commission has that to consider.
Ms. Hardy?
Mr. Examiner, I think that oral closings would be most expedient. I think that that sounds like it's fine with Goodnight. Findings in fact and conclusions of law in other cases, I know that the commission has actually ruled and then requested them from the parties. I've had that happen. But we don't object to providing written findings and conclusions. We just do want to expedite as quickly as possible a final decision in this matter, given the impact that's happening to Empire.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hearing Officer, an OCD.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Moander. Go ahead.
I'm sitting in the back seats here. OCD's perspective, I prefer oral closings. They can be, I think they're more effective, but I also, OCD would support the idea of submitting conclusions of law and finding of fact as well. So there's a paper roadmap. So this sounds like we're in the ballpark. OCD is pretty flexible on this.
Okay, thank you. I guess I should round out the field by asking Pilot and Rice, Mr. Beck for Rice.
I imagine that my closing will be pretty brief. So you probably don't need the benefit of a paragraph or two written down from me.
Okay, Mr. Suazo.
I think what Mr. Rankin and Ms. Hardy and Mr. Moander have proposed is reasonable, and Pilot's very much in the same position as Mr. Beck's client. So I think I agree with him and Mr. Rankin.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chandler, I guess my thoughts are that we should maybe discuss this on a break. My concern, we don't need to rule at this time on this. We've got time to think about this. And I guess my thoughts on the subject, at least preliminarily, is let's see where we are at the end of this. Whether we're down to 5 p.m. on day whatever, the last day of the hearing, or whether there's time for oral argument. But anyway, why don't we discuss it, the commission discuss it, and we'll get back to you on it, as they say.
Thank you.
All right, now, there's a motion, an unopposed motion for leave to file amended testimony of Frank J., AKA Deacon Merrick. My understanding, Mr. Rankin, is it's unopposed.
Yeah, Mr. Hearing Officer, Goodnight does not oppose the submission of the revised testimony. It's mostly in the nature of correcting, updating some details and referring now to updated testimony from Empire. So we don't have a problem with the revisions, and I'll be able to cross Mr. Merrick on his revisions that he's proposed.
Okay, the motion says several clarifying technical corrections to his previously submitted testimony. So, all right, if the motion's unopposed, it'll be granted, and the commission will accept the corrected self-affirmed statement of Frank J. Merrick for filing. Any further preliminary matters?
Just to coattail on Ms. Hardy's email that she sent out last week. We have an update on our end in terms of our witness availability. We have one of our main witnesses, one of our first two witnesses, his wife. He's now father, so he's going to be unavailable this week if we get to, which I anticipate we will get to him in our order. So we've had to resequence our witnesses a little bit because of that. And I'm happy to send it in an email, but I'm also happy just to state, I gave Ms. Hardy what I believe our witness order would be, at least our first four witnesses. I believe it'd be Mr. Nate Alleman, Mr. John Macbeth, Dr. Jim Davidson, and then Mr. Bill Knights. And then from there, hopefully Mr. McGuire will be able to step in when we resume the following week. So that's our I anticipate our witness order to be at this point.
All right. Okay, thanks. So, of course, the most important thing's already been taken care of. You let Ms. Hardy and Empire know. So, all right. Anything further before we proceed to your next witness. Ms. Hardy, Mr. Padilla, Ms. Sheehan.
Mr. Harwood, Mr. Merrick should be online. He's going to testify remotely.
Oh, okay, great. All right. There you are, Mr. Merrick. All right, you're unmuted. Are you ready to proceed, Mr. Merrick, or is it Doctor?
It is not doctor, it's Mr. Thank you, though.
All right, if you'll please raise your right hand, sir. You swear and affirm the testimony you give here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury.
I do.
All right. Mr. Padilla?
Mr. Merrick, for the record, please state your name.
My name is Frank J. Merrick.
Mr. Merrick, what is your profession?
I am a consulting petroleum reservoir engineer.
Can you give the commission a background of your education?
Yes, sir.
As an engineer.
Yes, I received a BS degree in petroleum engineering from Texas A&M University in May of 1977, and I have been a registered professional engineer since 1983.
Tell the commission what your work experience has been in terms of a petroleum engineer.
I started my career in Beeville, Texas for a company called Hughes and Hughes Oil and Gas, where I was a petroleum engineer. And then I moved up to Dallas in 1981 and worked briefly for a company called Buttes Resources Company as a Rocky Mountain district engineer. And then in 1982, I joined Cornell Oil Company in Dallas as reservoir engineering manager, and I was there from 1982 to 1984. And the gentleman who hired me at Cornell was named William M. Cobb, and he left shortly after I joined Cornell to form William M. Cobb and Associates, petroleum engineering consulting firm. And I joined him as the first employee in December of 1984. And I was with Cobb and Associates for my entire career until our firm, Cobb and Associates, merged with another consulting firm, Haas Petroleum Consultants, to form Haas and Cobb Petroleum Consultants. And I've been with that firm as a senior technical advisor since 2024.
Mr. Merrick, do you belong to any industry organizations?
Yes, sir. I've been a member of the Society of Petroleum Engineers, commonly called the SPE, for over 50 years. And I have also been a member of the Society of Petroleum Evaluation Engineers. That's referred to as the SPEE since 1985. I've had leadership positions, many leadership positions in both of those organizations.
Mr. Merrick, what does petroleum evaluation engineer do?
Yes, the SPEE is almost a subset of the SPE, and the Society of Petroleum Evaluation Engineers deals wholly with the area of our industry that's involved in evaluating oil and gas properties.
Mr. Merrick, have you had any experience with the Eunice Monument South unit?
I have it back in August of 1987 at Cobb and Associates. We prepared a report for a client looking at investing in the Eunice Monument unit. And at that original report in August of 87, we studied water flooding the EMSU on 80-acre well spacing. And then in April of '88, we did a follow-up study for that same client, looking at down spacing to 40-acre spacing and water flooding the EMSU with 80-acre 5-spot patterns.
Mr. Marek, what other experience do you have with Grayburg's and Andrus oil developments?
Well, I have been involved in many of the major producing fields in the Permian Basin, including the Wasson, Levelland, Slaughter, Means, Seminole, the North and South Cowden, Goldsmith, Dune, Waddell, Big Lake, Garza, and many others over my career. And specifically, Wasson, Means, Seminole, and Slaughter, I've been involved with CO2 studies and evaluations, meaning CO2 tertiary oil recovery for those fields, among some others.
In those fields where you have had CO2 tertiary recovery, did any of those assignments deal with ROZ, residual oil zones?
Yes, and all of those fields that I mentioned are San Andres producing fields.
Can you tell the commission why you were retained in this case? In these cases, I should say.
Yes, sir. I was retained to form and give an opinion on the effect of commercial water injection operations into the unitized Grayburg San Andreas Centerville at EMSU.
Mr. Chairman, we tender Mr. Marek as an expert in petroleum engineering.
Any objection from Goodnight?
No objection.
Any objection from OCD?
No objection.
Rice?
No objection.
Pilot?
No objections.
All right. Mr. Merrick will be so recognized.
Mr. Marek, did you prepare a self-affirmed statement labeled Exhibit A for introduction in these consolidated cases?
Yes.
And did you have any changes on your original self-affirmed statement?
Yes, sir.
What were those changes?
The changes deal with page 2 of my self-affirmed statement. The first change would be up in the text in the second full paragraph where I refer to the a reprocessed NewTek log evaluation that has a deepest oil saturation of minus 1851.5 subsea depth. And the other changes pertain to the depths shown toward the middle of the page. There's a table of three depth entries that I have revised slightly based upon revised perforation data furnished by Empire. The first change is the minus 748 subsea depth. That was revised from a previous value of minus 728. The second entry, minus 761, is unchanged from the original statement. The third entry, minus 1928 feet subsea depth, is the deepest injection perf in the Rhino saltwater disposal well, and that was revised from minus 2013 in my previous statement, again based on data provided by Empire. And The last entry, the minus 1851.5, as I mentioned earlier, that is the depth, the deepest oil that was seen on the reprocessed New Tech log.
Mr. Merrick, did you also have a typographical error on, I believe it was second bullet?
Oh,
You had well number 669, and that should have been well number 679, correct?
yes, sir. It is correct on the revised statement, as you just pointed out, but in the previous one, there was a typo.
Okay. Did any of the changes that you made have any effect on your conclusions?
No.
Mr. Examiner, we tender Exhibit H as corrected for admission.
You said Exhibit A.
H.
H. Any objection, Mr. Rankin?
Mr. Hearing Officer, no objection to the admission of Empire's revised Exhibit H.
It'll be admitted.
Mr. Merrick, let's go to a PowerPoint presentation that you have to summarize your testimony as expressed in the self-affirmed statement as corrected.
Yes, sir. As this
Let me-
notes here.
Let me
Go ahead.
address, you have the first relevant slide is slide number 2. What you have it labeled as introduction. Tell us about that.
Yes, I was asked to express my opinion regarding saltwater disposal operations within the San Andres interval. That would be the commercial saltwater disposal operations at EMSU. And the second bullet item, I'm just reiterating here, the defined unitized interval at EMSU, it's defined as the lower limit of the San Andres up to the top of the Grayburg Formation. So it covers the entire Grayburg San Andres interval. And then my last bullet item there is in my 48 years of experience, I've never seen an instance where an outside party was allowed to inject water into a unitized interval.
Let's go on to the next bullet point. Oh, slide, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What is this?
Exhibit E1 is this map shows a line of cross section toward the bottom central part of the map going from A to A prime, and it connects wells that are going to be shown in following cross sections.
Let's move on to the next slide.
This is a cross section, a structural cross section that shows the wells from the previous map. And these are well logs displayed in a structural fashion. And you can see the Rhino well, saltwater disposal well is the well on the left. And in my view, it's an orange line connects the top of the Grayburg zone. And then there's a green line that connects the top of the San Andres zone in each of these well logs. And there's also a line depicting the base of the San Andres, which we can see from the Rhino well log. And the other wells, or at least the 658 and 660, those logs did not go deep enough to see the base of the San Andres.
Mr. Merrick, You didn't pick the tops of the Grayberg or the Sound Grass, right?
That is correct.
Let's go on to the next slide, please.
All right.
What do you
and-
show
and-
here, Mr. Merrick?
Okay, this is a similar display to what we saw on the previous slide, except these well logs now are hung on the top of the Grayberg Formation, so there is no structure involved here. This is what we call a stratigraphic cross section. And there is a note at the bottom of this slide, and that same note was in the previous slide that says the log sections are based on NewTek's original analysis. So the Rhino well log is the original NewTek log, not the reprocessed log.
Mr. Merrick, what conclusions did you reach? We could go on to the final slide, please.
Okay, well, oil saturations calculated from logs and core data indicate that there is a ROZ in the San Andreas Reservoir. Secondly, the rock.
Let
Yes,
me
sir.
ask you, what is your definition of ROZ, residual oil zone?
Residual oil zone, in my years of experience, I would define that as a zone containing oil saturation that is below what would traditionally be the water flood target in these big reservoirs. And for many, many years, those zones were ignored. That was not the what you would say easy oil to get. And as time went on, these and CO2 enhanced recovery came into play. It was recognized that these ROZ zones had oil in them that could be recovered by CO2 injection and add to the value, of course, of the property.
In the San Andreas, according to your cross sections, do you see a ROZ in that interval?
Yes, sir. We see it in the core data, but most notably, maybe it is in the Rhino NewTek log itself. You see oil saturation well into the San Andreas Reservoir.
What is the second bullet shown on this conclusions?
Well, based on the perforations in the Rhino saltwater disposal well, that well is disposing of water into the ROZ that we see in well 679 core and in the Rhino well log itself.
What is contained, what conclusion do you reach on the last bullet point on this slide?
Well, the high water disposal rates that are occurring at EMSU can cause higher pressure in the ROZ and a higher potential for hydraulic fracturing and vertical communication. All of those would be detrimental to future ROZ operations. And these same factors could also have or will have a negative impact on the current field operations in the traditional Grayberg producing zone. In addition, the higher pressures will also reduce the efficiency of any future CO2 tertiary oil recovery project because it would cause more CO2 required to produce the oil than it would at lower pressures.
Can you explain to the commission why you could have a detrimental effect on the Grayberg producing zone through commercial saltwater injection?
Well, if commercial injection causes high enough pressures, that can cause vertical fractures and cause the disposed water to be diverted into the producing Grayburg zone, which would could be very detrimental to the future production operations there, and would certainly cause the wells to produce at higher water volumes, which is never a good thing.
Mr. Examiner, that concludes our summary of the testimony of Mr. Merrick, and we pass a witness for cross.
All right, thank you. Mr. Padilla, good night.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Officer. Good morning, Mr. Merrick. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Good. I do have some questions for you, and I want to take some time to walk through them. Get myself organized a moment here. I'm going to pull up on my screen and let me know when you can see it. Your resume.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. I'm going to start at the top. This was actually from your original Exhibit H that was filed back in August, but I think it's the same information. I've highlighted a few things here because I just want to remind myself to ask you about them, but I'm going to scroll back down to the bottom here. You include some of your technical presentations and some of the work you've done. Have you ever done any research or presented any papers on residual oil zones?
No.
Other than your work for Empire in this case, have you ever been involved in evaluating a potential residual oil zone?
Yes.
Which ones?
Well, when I was at Cornell Oil Company, we had a producing property called the Cornell Unit in the Watson Field, and we did internal studies of the potential for CO2 injection, which included what we at the time called a transition zone at the Cornell unit.
When you were with Cornell, that was, when was that? I don't see that. I didn't remember seeing them on your resume. Oh, okay. Between 82 and 85.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So back, that was very early in terms of, I mean, people weren't referring to these zones as residual oil zones at that time, correct?
No, as I stated previously, we called it a transition zone at the time.
Okay, and don't people still distinguish between a transition zone and a residual oil zone?
I don't know.
Okay. But other than that evaluation for Cornell, did you do any work evaluating a potential residual oil zone?
Over the years, we've had the opportunity to help clients look at acquiring properties, and on several occasions, I don't remember the specifics, but those properties would have CO2 enhanced recovery potential, and we attempted to help them evaluate those.
But anything that was specifically referred to, identified as a residual oil zone?
I don't remember.
Are you familiar with the term a greenfield residual oil zone?
I've heard the term, but I'm not familiar with it, deeply familiar with it.
Are you aware that Empire's experts consider the San Andres in the EMSU to be a greenfield residual oil zone?
I don't know.
Okay. What is your understanding of what a greenfield residual oil zone is?
I don't know.
For the work that you've done helping clients identify potential CO2 opportunities, have any of those been on the Central Basin Platform in the Permian Basin?
Yes,
Okay. Which ones?
we've looked at, yes, I think we mentioned them earlier, with Mr. Padilla, but there's been many of the fields that we've evaluated over the years that have had CO2 enhanced recovery. That would be, Seminole. I'm pulling back up the list. There's Wasson, Levelland, Slaughter, Mean, Seminole, North and South Cowden, Goldsmith, and others.
Okay, and all those that you just mentioned are on, they're not on the west side of the Central Basin Platform, right?
No,
They're all on the eastern margin, correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. To your recollection, have you ever evaluated a potential ROZ or CO2 tertiary recovery project in the San Andres on the western side of the Central Basin Platform?
Not that I recall.
Are you aware of any projects that are currently developing San Andres interval on the western side of the Central Basin Platform?
No.
Going back to the beginning of your career in the 70s with Hughes and Hughes, you've got a long history of preparing annual reserve reports, preparing reserve reports for companies, and while you've been at Cobb, correct?
Yes, some of my career certainly has been involved with annual reserve reports, and certainly some of that at Cobb and Associates.
Okay. And in addition to doing reserve reports, you also have an extensive background in doing economic analyses and evaluations of projects in the oil and gas industry, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And I've highlighted some of those references here. So back with Cornell, you in fact helped them develop an economic analysis of their anticipated CO2 project in a West Texas property, right? That looked at CO2 supply, CO2 issues, right?
Yes.
And you also for them developed annual internal reserve reports and also supervised the preparation of external third-party company reserve reports, correct?
Yes.
And then into the present, from 85 to the present, your resume states that you specialize, in fact, in CO2 reserve evaluation and economic analysis, right?
Yes.
And that you also specialize in CO2 enhanced oil recovery feasibility and performance analysis, right?
Correct.
And simulation studies, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Have you done a specific, like a formal reserve evaluation for a project that was specified as a residual oil zone project?
Not that I recall.
Have you ever done an economic analysis for a project that was specified as a residual oil zone project?
Not that I recall.
Have you ever conducted a CO2 enhanced oil recovery feasibility or performance analysis for a project that was specified to be an ROZ project?
Not that I recall.
In your testimony, you state, and I'll switch over to what was filed on Friday, I believe, which is the amendment to your August 2024 testimony. And actually, I think I'll stick with the original one that I was working off of here, Exhibit H. You state that your first experience working on the EMSU was in August of 1987, right?
Correct.
And that was working on a Cobb report for a client evaluating the water flood potential in the EMSU, right?
Yes.
And so that report was focused on evaluating what was the main pay zone in the Grayburg and partially in the Penrose, right?
Primarily the Grayburg.
Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. I don't know if you can see it. Is this states here at the top, Cobb and Associates, 1987. Is this the report that you were referring to?
I believe it is.
Okay. And I'll just note for the record that this version of this report was produced to Goodnight by Empire, and it's got the base labels at the bottom. It's a 47-page document. Mr. Hearing Officer, at this time, I would move the admission of this exhibit as Goodnight Cross exhibit number, I believe it's number 10 in the sequence, for purposes of the record.
Any objection, Mr. Padilla?
No objection.
Mr. Molander?
No objection from OCD, Mr. Hearing Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Beck.
No objection.
Mr. Swazo?
No objection from Pilot.
All right, it'll be admitted.
Mr. Merrick, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions about this report. Since you were familiar with it and you were part of the team that helped prepare it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to skip down to a page here that I've got some highlighting on. And this is one of the questions I want to ask you about. Back when you were doing this evaluation, you looked at a number of things, one of which was what pressure information was available for the EMSU at the time. And I've highlighted here an entry where you identified, the Cobb report identifies that records that you were able to obtain from New Mexico show that the initial pressure for the EMSU was at 1450 PSI at minus 250 feet sub C, right?
I believe that's what it says. Could I ask you to
Zoom in
just a bit? My old eyes are having trouble with that.
That's fair. I had to get myself new prescriptions since the last time I was before the commission so I can see better. But I'm with you on that. So I'll make it bigger. Can you see that a little bit better?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. Now, the question was, I guess, that the pressure that was identified in the MSU was at 1450 PSI at minus 250 sub C depth, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is there any reason to believe that minus 250 sub C depth is incorrect and that it was actually measured at plus 250 feet sub C?
I don't have an opinion on that.
Okay. But based on Cobb's analysis and reporting and evaluation, as reflected in this report, Cobb identified that pressure to be measured at a depth of minus 250 sub C. Agree?
Well, I agree. That's what I read there. I certainly don't remember that from that many years ago.
That's reasonable. It's a long time, I understand. Do you recall, Mr. Merrick, being able to locate much in the way of pressure data on the EMSU as you prepared this report?
I don't recall.
Okay. I'm going to go to the next page here where some of that is actually discussed. This next section of this report says that an OOIP, just so you and I are on the same page, is a short or acronym for Original Oil in Place. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at this next section here where it's titled Original Oil in Place based on data obtained since 1983, I've highlighted a sentence here that says, due to the lack of pressure data, no material balance projection could be prepared for EMSU. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Now, does that refresh your recollection on whether Cobb was able to identify much in the way of pressure data on the EMSU?
Well, it just reminds me that there wasn't much, if any, data available.
And Cobb would have done a pretty thorough job trying to locate pressure data in order to do its job, wouldn't it?
Well, at the time, our client did not own the property, so we and again, this is from a memory, but the data that we acquired was primarily from public sources. The operator or the party we were working for did not own and operate the unit. So that could have contributed to us having difficulty getting pressure data.
Was your client a working interest owner in the unit?
You know, I don't remember if they were at the time or if they were looking to acquire a working interest.
Okay. You would agree with me that having sufficient accurate pressure data would be critical to preparing a model on production in the MSU.
Yes.
Skipping down a couple pages here. There's an entry here where I believe this section is talking about the geology, a description of the reservoir and the geology, okay? And I've highlighted an entry that I wanted to just bring to your attention and ask you to comment on. Here, the sentence I've highlighted says, an accurate prediction of injection, this is at page 9 of this document, an accurate prediction of injection and production performance for any water flood operation requires an accurate description of the reservoir, including both rock, property, and fluid property data. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, sir.
And you would agree that to be reliable, a prediction of the EMSU injection and production, the geologic parameters would need to be accurate.
Well, the better the data, the better the answer.
Right. Okay. And if you're modeling the MSU, you would want your model to, as closely as possible, reflect the actual data, the geologic data that's available. Would you agree?
Yes.
At page 17 here, I'm going to scroll down where there's some more discussion about the geology here. The section here that says reservoir stratification, Cobb identified or characterized the Grayberg here as follows. Quote, the examination, this is page 13 of this report. Quote, examination of logs and core data indicates that the EMSU will behave as a heterogeneous stratified system. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So because it's heterogeneous and stratified, because it's important to have accurate geological inputs, Cobb created its model using 20 different layers to evaluate the Grayberg water flood performance, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the next thing I've got highlighted here. At the bottom of page 13, I've excluded the first part of that sentence, but it says, quote, utilizing a V factor of 0.75. A 20-layer, 80-acre pattern 5-spot model has been developed to predict EMSU water flood performance. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I'm not going to go into the details here, but in this report, Cobb identifies, based on the data available, 20 layers with different permeability and porosity values for each of those 20 layers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then based on that data and information, Cobb prepared an economic evaluation of the potential water flood performance in the Grayberg, right?
That
As part
data.
of this. Apologize, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, as part of this report, as part of this 1987 report, Cobb prepared an economic analysis, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'll scroll down to that where some of that's discussed. And when you prepared this economic analysis, even back at the time in 1987, Cobb evaluated different pricing scenarios, correct?
Based
oil and
on
gas?
what this report says, yes, I certainly don't remember that
Okay.
specifically.
So, at the bottom of page 18 here, we get into the economic evaluation of the water flood in the Grayburg. And I've highlighted here the part that I was interested in. And in some, this report reflects that Cobb had done a couple of different pricing scenarios. Do you agree?
Yes.
And one of those pricing scenarios was a flat price case where, as I've highlighted here, it says that the cash flow projections are presented for the EMSU water flood utilizing both flat prices and escalated prices. Did I read that right?
Yes.
And then goes on to say for the flat price case, oil and gas prices and operating costs are held constant over the projected 30-year life. Did I read that correct?
Yes.
Is that is it relatively standard when evaluating conducting economic evaluations to include a flat price scenario?
It's very common.
Okay. And is that because when you're conducting economic evaluations, you want to have understanding of potential pricing to evaluate the economics?
The flat price case stems many times from the SEC would require flat price projections for public companies. So that's one reason it was very common to do flat price projections.
And is that because it's a fairly conservative approach?
It could be conservative or the opposite, actually.
Sure, depending on the economic environment at the time of the evaluation, right?
Yes.
In other words, the future might look very uncertain and actually not very positive for oil and gas production, in which case a flat price would be very conservative, right?
Well, if one expected prices to increase over time, the flat price case would be conservative. If there was risk in the market and one expected prices might fall, then the flat price case could be optimistic.
Now, when you you have extensive background running economic models and evaluations of oil and gas projects, right? When you run your economic evaluations, do you generally recommend to your clients that you run them at different pricing scenarios?
We would typically run what the client preferred. They would specify what they wanted to see.
Okay. You don't make a recommendation in terms of running at least more than one pricing scenario?
Generally, no.
Okay. Now, okay, you also did a follow-up study in 1988 for the same client on the EMSU, correct?
Yes.
And that one was evaluating infill drilling downspacing to 40 acres, right? With 80-acre 5-spot pattern for water flood, right?
Correct.
Okay. Since that 1988 report, have you done any additional, have you had any further additional experience with the EMSU since 1988?
Not that I recall until Empire contacted us.
Okay. How about anything on the west side of the Central Basin Platform?
Oh gosh, I'd have to look through my projects list. I just don't know.
Okay. As you're sitting here today, based off what you can recall, can you think of any projects that you've worked on the west side of the Central Basin Platform?
Not specifically.
Okay. I'm going to pull up another exhibit here that was produced to us in our discovery, Mr. Merrick, with Empire. And it's got the Bates labels on the bottom as well. And I'm going to represent to you that this was produced to us as part of the discovery. It's a chain of emails between yourself and some members from Empire. Going back into, I'll scroll down, it's 17 pages. It's the complete document that we received. And it goes back to an email in, I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it better, September of 2022. Do you see that highlighting I've got there?
I do.
Do you recall being contacted by Empire on that date? Or actually sending an email to Empire folks on that date?
I don't remember it specifically, but maybe if we look deeper, we'll see if it jogs my memory.
Okay.
I see what you have on the screen, though, no doubt.
Okay. So here it's an email from you to different folks at Empire dated September 4th, 2022. And it says here that you've attached PDF copies of prior reports, presumably that Cobb had done, as stated in the subject line, for the EMSU. And then you reflect to them that you did get permission from the prior client to provide this to them. Do you recall providing those Cobb reports to Empire at that time?
Well, I do now, yes, that I see this.
Yeah. Do you recall what the, how did that come about? Did they reach out to you to ask for them?
I'm trying to remember the time sequence of things. It seems I was contacted by Empire. You see Mr. Pritchard's name there. I don't remember if they had acquired it at the time or if they were looking to acquire the EMSU at the time.
Okay, and the prior Cobb reports that you referred to here that you attached, would those have been the 1987 and 1988 reports that we just referred to?
They would have to have been. There's no other reports.
Okay, that was my next question, so thank you. Okay, so you don't recall what generated this email other than likely that they reached out to you and asked if they could have them and you provided it to them, correct?
Yes.
Okay, but there was no other discussion or engagement beyond you providing them those reports, correct?
Not that I recall.
So I'll scroll up here to the next page, and we fast forward almost a year. You see here I've got another email from Mr. Mike Morissette, again from Empire, dated Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. It's sent to you and two other folks at Cobb as well. Can you see that on your screen?
I do.
Do you recall this email from Mr. Morissette?
Can you zoom in a bit and let me read it?
Sure.
I don't remember. I mean, I see what's written here. I'm thinking this had to maybe be when Empire was looking to acquire the MSU just by the nature of the text here. But I don't remember with great detail.
That's understandable. Lots happened since this time. So I've highlighted here in particular, again, language that I wanted to point out. Mr. Morissette emailed you and your colleagues, and these were your colleagues, right? Mr. Don Bailey and Mr. Robert Williams, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Morissette emailed you and he says that he's got a special project that he'd like to discuss with you. We're going to need reservoir production geology, expert testimony, et cetera, on something, right? But you don't, as you sit here today, you don't recall that email off the top of your head.
No.
Okay. So you don't recall, as you sit here, what they were inquiring about at that time?
I do not.
Okay. I'll scroll further up here. Just through here, there's some discussions back and forth about times to meet or discuss their requests. Okay. Mr. Bailey, your colleague, responds that Cobb does believe that they can help Empire both with the near term. This must have been based after the call. Okay. With both near-term EMSU SWD issues and the follow-up EMSU water flood optimization study. And just your understanding of SWD would be saltwater disposal, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next point here, asking whether Empire is able to collect data to share with us on near-term EMSU saltwater disposal issues. And do they have a list of deliverables for Cobb on the SWD issues? Do you see that?
I see it.
Do you recall this email of Cobb asking for these details from Empire?
I do not recall it specifically.
Okay. Do you recall around this time having discussions with Empire about potentially doing some work for them on the EMSU?
I don't recall specific conversations, no.
Okay. Do you recall generally having discussions with your colleagues at Empire about potentially doing some work for them at this time?
No, I don't recall any.
That's fair. But you have no reason. Obviously, these were emails that were from and to Cobb and your colleagues, including yourself and Empire, correct?
Oh, yes, correct.
Yeah. Now, in fact, you did respond on August 24th, 2023, about your availability to discuss these issues with Empire and your colleagues, saying that you were available, but you don't recall the result of those discussions or your availability on that day, do you?
Well, if I scroll up slightly, who did that email go to? Oh, it's there. This is internal to, no, Mike Moore said, I see. No, I mean, other than acknowledging, I see what's there. I don't have a specific recollection of it.
Okay. Now, a few days after this, okay, on August 31st, Miss Lucy King with Empire emails the same group, okay, and directs directly to Mr. Bailey, your colleague. And she states, and I've highlighted the language here, that we are evaluating our strategy for opposing the saltwater disposal in and offset the Eunice Monument South units and Arrowhead Grayburg unit. She goes on to say that there's a hearing set for September 2023. They've asked for a continuance to December. And then she says, while your input would be invaluable, we are uncertain of what to request from you. We know that year-end reserve season is here. We will contact you when we have a better view of what Cobb and Associates can contribute. So at this point, Mr. Merrick, at this point, you still don't have a recollection of any specific or general discussions with Empire about what they were seeking or asking from Cobb at this point?
No, I mean, obviously this was brewing back then, I guess the saltwater disposal issue, but specifically, I don't, recall more than that.
So then following this Thursday, August 31st email, Mr. Darrell Davis with Empire sends an email to the group and to you specifically, stating that we would like for Cobb and Associates to conduct a study to determine a range of oil in place volumes for the San Andres residual oil zone, which lies beneath the Empire Petroleum operated Eunice Monument oil field. We have core and log data, which can be used in this evaluation along with geologic maps of the Grayburg Formation. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Do you recall having this email or receiving this email from Mr. Davis?
I don't recall it specifically, but I've no doubt it occurred.
Do you recall having discussions with Empire about their request for you or Cobb to prepare an oil in place volume analysis for the EMSU in the San Andres?
I do not recall having that discussion, but that study obviously has not occurred.
Okay. But you don't recall having that discussion, and you don't recall them asking that work to be done, do you?
The work being an
oil in place.
Specifically, please.
Yeah. As you sit here, you don't recall being asked to do an oil in place volume analysis for the San Andres residual oil zone in the EMSU.
We were not asked to do that. That's correct.
Well, actually, I guess I'm saying it looks like I'm saying you were asked, because this email from Mr. Davis asks you to do it, right? He says, we would like for Cobb and Associates to conduct a study to determine a range of oil in place volumes for the San Andreas residual oil zone.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
so-
I see that, but it never occurred, and I don't remember why it did not, but that study never occurred.
Okay. Okay. But you agree with me that Empire did ask for that study from Cobb and Associates, agree?
That's what I see there.
Okay. And then Mr. Davis goes on to say that this study and exhibits, including an affidavit for the hearing and write-up and figures and so forth, would need to be completed by late October 2023 so that it can be ready for this November hearing. Okay, again, but you don't recall those timeframes as you sit here today.
No.
Okay. Now, following, you did respond to Mr. Davis and you said, and this is on Wednesday, September 13th, okay? You said to Mr. Davis, asking for a meeting to discuss it. You were a bit confused because you had understood the EMSU. You were asking whether the project that they're asking for you to do would to quantify the ROZ, right?
Please, I was reading the email. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Would you please restate your question?
Sure. Let me give you a moment to read it, Mr. Merrick.
Okay.
So I don't want to force you to speed read. So this is an email from you to Mr. Davis in the same group, maybe some additional folks, looks like, on September 13th, 2023. Okay. And you respond to Mr. Davis from that request for Cobb to prepare an oil in place analysis. And you're asking for a meeting to discuss the request. You say that you're a bit confused and you ask whether what they're asking for you to do is to quantify the ROZ, right?
Right. Yes.
And then you ask for them to clarify whether this would be a separate project from evaluating the EMSU injection well issues, which came up the previous month, right?
Yes.
And then you're asking about this November hearing and whether it's for both the ROZ issue, or whether it's either for the ROZ issue or for the saltwater disposal well issues, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then you're asking for a Teams call to clarify what they want, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then in response, Mr. Davis sends an email to you in the same group on the same day. And he explains that the SWD wells are injecting into the San Andreas, which is what Empire contends is the ROZ. So they need an estimate for the OOIP, which is the original oil in place, for the ROZ to show that we want to protect the EOR reserve potential. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So then, after explaining that and the connection between the two, you guys propose a meeting by email. And the next series of emails is about trying to get that set up, okay?
All right.
You can see that you're looking, again, you're responding, trying to get a meeting set up with them to discuss. Mr. Davis responds a 1 o'clock time works for that same day or for a future day. And then Mr. Davis responds on Saturday, September 23rd, which is about 10 days after that last series of emails where you were discussing the clarifications of what Empire is wanting. On about 10 days later, on September 23rd, Mr. Davis follows up to you and your colleagues at Cobb and says, if there's anything else you need from us, let us know. As our geologist, Nick, will be out Tuesday through Friday next week. As you know, the affidavit has to be notarized and we need a copy of the presenter's resume attached to it. We appreciate your help. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
So at some point here, you guys decided what your testimony was going to be, right? What your remit was, what your task was as of this date on September 23rd in 2023, correct?
I don't know if that's correct. I'm not sure that we knew exactly at that point in time.
Okay, very good. The rest of these emails here are just some discussions about the data that they provided. And for whatever reason, that list of core data, this is another email from you on September 25th to the Empire team, restating the list of core data that they provided to you. But for whatever reason, it didn't show up in the document we received. So I don't know what it was. But basically you say, unless there's any more data, you have what you need. And then on the next response, Empire's geologist, Mr. Sistari, indicates that he meant to send you the core for the RR bell number 4. So he provides that to you, okay, in this email. And that's dated September 25th. And then so beyond that, Mr. Merrick, there's just some discussions about the details or understanding any corrections, or there's some issues around the depths in the core for the RR bell 4, but there's no other technical discussions in this email chain, okay? Do you recall any of those discussions with Mr. Sistari?
Not specifically.
Okay. Do you remember generally having email discussions with him, trying to understand and make sure you understood the data that was provided to you?
To the extent you're showing me those emails, certainly I remember that occurred, but
okay,
I don't have many of the specifics in mind.
Okay. Mr. Hearing Officer, I would move the admission of this document that has base numbers on it. It's a 17-page email chain that was produced to us in discovery by Empire as Goodnight Cross exhibit number 11.
I'm going to object because I don't see the point that these exhibits have, other than they show that apparently oil in place studies were never conducted by Cobb. I don't know that it's relevant, essentially.
I'm going to get to that a little bit.
Well, you're proposing the exhibit now, so what's your position on its relevance?
Well, Mr. Hearing Officer, Mr. Merrick is an expert. He's been almost 50 years doing economic analyses and reserve reports on a wide range of projects, especially in the Central Basin Platform. He was asked to do an original oil in place analysis specific to the San Andreas ROZ, and he didn't do it. Instead, he prepared a 2-page report in which he relies solely on Newtek's analysis for oil saturations. And I want to point out that there was discussions, there was a request for him to do something, and Mr. Merrick didn't do it. I think it's important and relevant to the commission's consideration of the weight of overall weight of Empire's testimony in this case.
Okay. Well, the objection's overruled. It does go to the weight, not the admissibility of the document. So it'll be admitted. I don't necessarily need to hear from anybody else unless there are others that have specific things that they're burning to express about this exhibit. All right. Before we proceed with this, I see it's almost 10:30.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a mid-morning break? This
Perfect.
seems like a reasonable place to.
Great time.
All right, so let's take 10 minutes. You ready, Ms. Apodaca? Okay.
Yes, we're ready.
Ms. Tejas, are you back with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Mr. Hearing Officer, may I interrupt 1 second?
Sure. Who's speaking?
This is the Chairperson Rosados. It's Jerry.
Oh.
Sorry. I forgot to mention at the outset, for lunch today, I do have a hard set cut off at about 11:50. And so if we could make sure that we're just wrapped up by 11:50 for lunch this morning.
Okay. Feel free to break in at that time
Okay.
if we're distracted or our minds are elsewhere.
Awesome.
All
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Officer.
Okay, Mr. Rankin, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Merrick, we just left off discussing this email chain that we marked as Goodnight Cross Exhibit number 11. And it was an email chain that the last email on it was December 1st, 2023. But the last email involving you and Empire was September 25th, 2023. Okay. And subsequent to this email chain, you prepared, thank you, yeah. Subsequent to this email chain in September 2023 that we were just reviewing, you prepared testimony for Empire in these cases initially. And I'm sharing on my screen your original testimony in these cases. I'll scroll through it, but you prepared some testimony in this case that's marked as Exhibit D. That was initially signed and dated October 16th, 2023. And it was in these cases before they were referred to the commission. Do you recall preparing that testimony back in October of 2023? Oh, maybe you're on mute, Mr. Merrick.
My apologies. Could you scroll down a bit so I can see?
Sure. So this, you'll see that the caption here identifies the applications of Goodnight Midstream for approval of saltwater disposal wells, and then it lists only 4 cases, and that's because this testimony was provided and prepared prior to the additional cases that were added when this matter was referred to the commission. You'll see it identifies your self-affirmed statement. I've highlighted a couple of things I want to discuss with you, and I'll get to that in a moment. But you'll see your signature here with your engineer stamp and then the date of October 16th, 2023. And it's marked as Exhibit D1. Do you recall preparing this version of your testimony back in October of 2023?
Generally, yes.
Okay. Now in this version of your testimony, you in paragraph 3 highlighted here, you state that you were asked to evaluate the impact of saltwater disposal operations within the San Andres interval at the MSU in Lee County, New Mexico, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in this original testimony, you say that you were asked to evaluate the impact of saltwater disposal, but it's barely 2 pages of written text, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And as part of that analysis, the first thing you identified is you identified the definition of the unitized interval in the MSU, and you pull the language from the unit agreement or the unit order, which identifies that the unitized interval is from the Grayburg essentially down into and includes the San Andres, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then you looked at these well logs that were interpreted by New Tech, including the Goodnight Rhino SWD number 1, And then you looked at the EMSU 679 and 660, and then the RR Bell number 4, correct?
Yes.
And then based on those wells and the logs that you were given by Empire, you prepared 2 cross sections that you reviewed essentially in your summary slides today, correct?
Yes, I did not prepare those cross sections, but they are certainly part of my testimony.
Okay. Who did prepare the cross sections?
I don't recall which individual at Empire prepared them, but that came from someone at Empire.
But you reviewed the logs and the cross sections and adopted them as presented to you, correct?
Yes.
So after looking at that cross section, those 2 cross sections that were prepared for you, one was a structural cross section, and the second one is a stratigraphic where it's hung on the Grayberg, right?
Yes.
And after identifying those logs, you say that the logs show oil saturation throughout the entire San Andreas interval, correct?
Yes.
And now this is your original testimony, so it's referring to the original, I'm going to call it the original NewTek petrophysical analysis of these wells, correct?
Yes.
And your new testimony that we just reviewed today uses, you refer to NewTek's revised or updated petrophysical analysis, correct?
Yes, reprocessed data.
Okay. Now, based on your review in particular of the Rhino SWD number 1, you state that well shows oil saturation throughout the entire San Andreas interval, top to base, correct?
In the original NewTek log, yes.
Okay, so I'll just scroll down here, and you've attached exhibits D2 and D2, D4, and in the original, which is the one attached here, it's hard to see, okay? It's not a great quality image.
Sure.
And I may take a moment to pull up a better quality one. But can you see the log headers here?
Yes.
And when you're talking about oil saturations, which track are we looking at?
Oh, on these, I actually would refer you to it's an Excel file that's got the actual raw data from the NewTek log. That's what I referred to, so that I could see a specific depth and a specific oil saturation. I did not rely on these difficult to read PDFs.
Okay. Yeah, they're hard to read. Let me see if I can pull up. A better image. Mr. Merrick, this is the original testimony of Mr. Joseph McShane, who's Empire's geologist, and it's marked as Exhibit G in this case. Okay, it's the same case that your testimony has been submitted in, and it was submitted. This is the version of Mr. McShane's testimony that was filed back in August of 2024. Okay, I'll just slowly scroll through so you can. I'm not sure if you previously reviewed this and all, but I'll scroll through it so you can see the date at the end where Mr. McShane signs it. Okay, it's dated 8/21/2024. So this is his statement from that time. Mr. McShane, as part of his testimony, also refers to NewTek's the original analysis of NewTek and the Rhino SWD number 1 well, and this is the best image I could find among Empire's materials that's part of their testimony that has a better quality image. Okay, but I guess here is the NewTek's analysis of the San Andreas EMSU. It's Mr. McShane's original exhibit G3 little I, and you'll see it's the Goodnight Rhino well. And then he's identified and call out some oil saturations at depths that you can't read. But generally this is the log interpretation that you were originally relying on for your statement that there's oil saturations in the Rhino in the San Andres from top to base, correct?
Well, I don't recall reviewing this specific exhibit, but it was the original Rhino new tech log that I relied upon to make that statement.
Okay. So looking at this, the oil saturation track here, this oil saturation is the basis for your statement that there was oil saturation in the San Andres based on Newtek's log analysis from top to base, correct?
Not from this specific exhibit you're showing. My opinion was based on the original new tech analysis. I did not receive it in this form that we're looking at.
Okay, so
that I recall.
Okay, but you got it in digits, in digitized format? So actually like numbers for this oil saturations?
On the original new tech interpretation, I do not recall getting them in digital form. On the reprocessed new tech, I did get that in digital form.
Okay, I'm just a little confused because so in your original testimony, you refer to this cross-section in your testimony as the basis for your statement that there's oil saturations from the top of the San Andres to the base, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so to make this easier, I pulled, sorry for scrolling through this. I pulled a better visual of the same Newtek original log analysis or log image that was part of the same set of testimony submitted by Empire, and that's Mr. McShane's Exhibit G3 little I. Okay.
Okay.
Do you have any reason to believe that this Exhibit G3 little I is different than what is reflected in your cross section in Exhibit? I believe it's Exhibit H.
Mr. Examiner, I'm going to object to this line of questioning. Mr. Marcus already said that he didn't rely on this cross-section.
Well, it's been represented that he did in his original report. I think that's what Mr. Rankin is trying to get to the bottom of. So
Okay.
it'll be overruled.
So in this testimony, Mr. Merrick, back in October of 2023, what you were given this cross section prepared by Empire, and there's a track here that, as I understand, shows water saturation and oil saturation. And my understanding when I read this testimony was that you were referring to this log image of Newtek's analysis for the statement that there is oil saturation in the San Andres from the top of the San Andres to the base. Is that not correct?
I believe it is correct.
Okay. So looking at this, then this track where I got my cursor, this is the track that would represent to you that there's oil saturations from the top to the base of the San Andres in the EMSU, correct?
Well, I'm not seeing your cursor. I apologize.
Sorry, it's a little hard to see. I'm making a blue box now around where that is. This is the interval from the top of the San Andres where the green bar is down to the base at the top of the Glorieta. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And it's this track that represents, in your understanding, the oil saturations through that interval, correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. Very good. Now, this opinion that you prepared back in October 2023, okay. that the Rhino SWD well shows oil saturations throughout the entire San Andreas interval from top to base. That's solely based on NewTek's interpretation of that log, correct?
The original interpretation, yes.
Yes. Okay. And at that time, as you prepared this testimony in October 23, you did not conduct an independent assessment of NewTek's log interpretation for the Rhino SWD as part of your analysis at that time, did you?
I did not.
Okay. In fact, you did not conduct an independent assessment of any of NewTek's interpretations as part of your analysis, did you?
That's correct.
Did you talk with NewTek's technician who performed the analysis before you prepared your October 23 testimony?
I did not.
Did you talk with NewTek's technician before you prepared your recently revised testimony?
I did not.
Did you review NewTek's testimony before preparing your October 2023 statement?
I'm sorry. No, I guess not. I have not seen NewTek's testimony.
Did you review NewTek's revised testimony that's been submitted to the commission as part of in preparation for your revised testimony that you recently submitted?
I did not.
Did you conduct a separate or independent evaluation to arrive at your own independent opinion about whether whether there might be oil saturations across the entire San Andreas interval in the EMSU?
I'm not sure that I totally understood your question. Would you please repeat it?
Sure. You did not conduct an evaluation to arrive at your own independent opinion about what the oil saturations might be across the entire San Andreas interval within the EMSU. Agree?
My opinion was based on the revised NewTek analysis that was provided to me. I did no independent analysis on that issue.
Okay, so I'll skip over to your amended testimony. Okay, this is the attachment, which was Exhibit A to Empire's motion that they filed on Friday, asking to revise your testimony. Okay, it provides a red line of your changes, explaining or showing what the changes were, and then following that red line document is the clean version of that document that actually has your signature on it. I'm scrolling through that here with some highlighting that I want to kind of walk through with you as well. When I get to the bottom here, it's got your signature and it's dated 4/2/2025, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So as I understand you to say, for this revised testimony that has been just admitted to the commission, you didn't do your own independent evaluation of what the oil saturations might be across the San Andreas in the EMSU. Instead, you relied on NewTek's analysis that made that determination, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And based on NewTek's analysis, then you looked at that cross-section in your exhibits, and it's exhibit H2, right? And you're looking at the Rhino and you see in the third track from the left, I think it's the depth track, there's a little fuchsia box on that depth track. Do you see that?
Yes.
It's hard to see. Is it your understanding that fuchsia box represents the perforation interval of the Rhino well?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. And that perforation interval is the same interval that you identified as the interval that has these oil saturations, correct?
I'm sorry, repeat that again.
Sure. The interval where the Rhino has these perforations, right, for disposal is the same interval that you identified as having those oil saturations within the San Andreas, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the basis for your opinion that Goodnight is injecting into a zone that is a documented ROZ, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it's also the basis for your opinion that water is being injected into the unitized portion of the San Andreas interval, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Um, Now, in Mr. McShane's original, now, did you review any of Empire's testimony that was submitted as part of this case?
Not Mr. McShane's that I recall.
Okay. I'm showing here again, Mr. McShane's exhibit G3 little I, okay? And you'll see that Mr. McShane has reflects here a calculation. This is Mr. McShane's original testimony, his original exhibit G3I, and he's conducted a calculation where he's identified an oil in place value, okay, on a section basis. Do you see that where I've highlighted it? He says the Rhino SWD has a 91.5 million barrel per section oil in place calculation. Is that do you see that there?
I do.
Okay. Now, Mr. McShane, you told me and testified that your revised testimony that was just admitted to the record is based on NewTek's revised petrophysical reprocess calculation for the Rhino, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to just pull up Mr. McShane's revised testimony where he's done that calculation again. Let me know when you can see my screen again, Mr. Merrick.
I see it.
Okay, do you see, again, it says Exhibit G3 little I. It's a similar representation on this exhibit. This is Mr. McShane's revised Exhibit G3. And I'll scroll up to the top of this document so you can see that this is the revised self-affirmed statement of Mr. McShane for Empire. It's his revised Exhibit G. It was filed December 5th, 2024, okay? I'll go back to that page. You'll see here that he's done, based on NewTek's updated or reprocessed analysis for the Rhino, he's recalculated the oil in place value for this well, and it's now 15.62 million barrels per section. Do you see that?
Yes.
So Mr. McShane, and based on NewTek's analysis, went from 91.5 million barrels per section down to 15.62 million barrels per section. Agree?
Yes.
Just doing a quick calculation, that's a reduction of 82, more than 82% in the oil in place based on that revised petrophysical analysis. Would you disagree with that?
I haven't done the math, but if your math is correct, I agree with your statement.
Okay. Now, in your statement that you submitted today, you use the same language here. And this is again I'm showing your revised amended statement. You say that the NewTek process log for the Rhino SWD1 well shows oil saturation of Mr. McShane's. Now, your exhibit here that you refer to, it's the same old exhibit, right? It's not been updated to show NewTek's reprocessed log image for this cross section, correct?
That's correct, and it's noted at the bottom of that exhibit.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull up Mr. McShane's revised testimony, okay, his exhibit G3I, which shows the well log image for the revised or updated reprocessed NewTek analysis. Okay. It doesn't show the tops of the San Andres here, but is it still your opinion that NewTek's revised reprocessed petrophysical analysis for the Rhino SWD #1 still shows oil saturations throughout the entire interval of the San Andres?
No, that's not correct.
Okay, what is your, how would you revise your statement then?
The revised NewTek log shows oil down to minus 1851.5. The base of the San Andres is minus 1952. So there is an interval roughly 100 feet in the lowest part of the San Andres that has no oil saturation. It's 100% water saturation.
Okay, so you would just correct to say that in your opinion, there's oil saturations in the San Andres down to basically 100 feet short of the base of the San Andres.
Yes, approximately.
Okay. Are you using an oil saturation cutoff for your determination that there are oil saturations down to that depth?
No.
Okay. So you're not making any cutoffs, right? That if a 1% oil saturation would qualify under your interpretation that there's oil saturation throughout that interval, correct?
Yes.
Now, Mr. McShane's statement down here that I'm showing on Exhibit G3 has a table at the bottom left. Do you see this table down here?
Yes.
And it's got it's got the San Andres indicated here. It says zone, and then it's got different column headings. It says gross interval. So as I understand, Mr. McShane is saying that the gross interval for the San Andres is about 1,215 feet. He says that the net interval is 738.5 feet. And then he says that the net oil interval is 220 feet. Do you see that?
I do.
Do you understand what saturation cutoff Empire is using to make that net oil interval determination?
I do not know.
Now, are you aware when when asked which of its two log interpretations is more likely the correct answer, its original or revised interpretations, that NewTek's witness testified in his deposition that NewTek stands by its original log interpretations? Are you aware of that?
No.
Based on the fact that NewTek's own witness testified that NewTek stands by its original log interpretations and not its revised log interpretations, do you stand by your revised testimony, which relies on NewTek's revised log interpretations?
I tend to like the revised, not the right term. The revised interpretation that was furnished to me looks reasonable and does display an ROZ. So between which of the two are actually correct, I'm not a petrophysicist. I can't say.
Okay. So do you know what NewTek did to modify its analysis between its original and revised log interpretations?
My understanding is that they modified their petrophysical parameters, the A, M, and N factors used to calculate the fluid saturations.
Do you know how, in what way they modified those parameters?
No.
Do you know the basis for which they modified those parameters?
No.
So you have, as you sit here today, you have no way of evaluating between the two a basis for deciding yourself which is more correct. Agree?
Yes.
In your original testimony, and again, I'm referring to your October 2023 testimony that you filed originally. Okay. You have a statement in here that says, and I've tried to put a box on it. I'll zoom in a little bit more. Okay. This is paragraph 4 of your original statement that was marked as Exhibit D. You state that, quote, the high water disposal rates will cause higher pressures in the ROZ and higher potential for hydraulic fracturing and vertical communication, all of which will impair Empire's ability to produce hydrocarbons from the ROZ. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Now, in your revised testimony that was just admitted to the commission today, you've got a similar statement, but it's different. And in that statement on page 2 of your revised testimony, you say, and quote, the high water disposal rates will likely cause higher pressures in the ROZ and higher potential for hydraulic fracturing and vertical communication, all of which will be detrimental to future ROZ operations. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And the difference, Mr. Merrick, is that in your revised testimony, you inserted the word likely, correct? Well, that's one difference anyway, right? You inserted the word likely.
Okay, I'd have to look at them side by side, but
Okay, so here's the revised version, which
okay.
says the high water disposal rates will likely cause higher pressures. In your original, you say the high water disposal rates will cause higher pressures. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. Do you recall why you amended your testimony to use the word likely?
No, I don't recall.
In your analysis, Mr. Merrick, did you evaluate potential impacts to the San Andreas Formation pressure as a result of Goodnight's injection?
Ask me one more time, please.
Did you review any data or evidence that relates to potential impacts to the San Andreas Formation pressure as a result of Goodnight's injection?
No, other than the obvious correlation between high injection rates will cause increased pressure with time.
Okay, but you yourself, you didn't look at any data to evaluate how pressure has changed over time as a result of Goodnight's injection, did you?
That's correct.
Okay. And so you didn't look at any data or an injection data or injection profiles or pressure data that would support that opinion?
That's correct.
As part of your opening and summary, you talked about concerns about high pressure, injection pressures causing potentially fracturing in a formation that would negatively impact development in the EMSU, correct?
I believe that's correct.
And the same concern would apply for water flood injection operations in the Grayburg, correct?
Yes.
In other words, like if the water flood injectors that Goodnight's operating are exceeding or approaching formation parting pressure, that would be a concern as well, correct?
It could be.
Okay. But you didn't evaluate what the formation parting pressures are for the Grayburg or the San Andreas, did you?
I did not.
And you don't know whether the current formation pressures are approaching those levels in either the San Andreas or the Grayburg, are you?
Please restate the question.
You haven't evaluated the current reservoir pressures in either the Grayburg or the San Andreas, so you can't say whether there's a concern about potential for fracturing in either of those zones, correct?
Correct.
Um, The next sentence here says that these same factors may also have a negative impact on current field operations in the traditional Grayburg, San Andreas producing zones. Did I read that correct?
Yes.
But your statement here does not include an analysis of what those potential impacts would be, correct?
That's correct.
And you did not review any data that would support such an opinion.
No, that was based on my experience.
Okay, so you haven't looked at any production data for the EMSU, any oil or water production data, correct?
Correct.
And you haven't looked at any well production histories for the EMSU, correct?
Not in recent history. That's correct.
Okay, so you have no basis to say whether there are any negative impacts currently being exhibited in the EMSU, correct?
That's why I put the word may in there. May have.
Right. Okay. In your original testimony, I've highlighted here in green in paragraph 5, you included the statement that, quote, based on my many years of experience and the above analysis, it is my opinion that Goodnight's proposed injection of produced water into the unitized interval will detrimentally impact Empire's ability to recover hydrocarbons from the RZ and therefore result in waste of oil and gas. Period. As a result, such water disposal should not be allowed at the EMSU. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Now, in your amended or revised testimony, you did not include that statement, correct?
Correct.
And in particular, you did not include the statement, quote, and therefore result in waste of oil and gas. Agree?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Merrick, as part of your analysis and part of your opinion here today, you were not asked to evaluate whether oil in the purported ROZ in the San Andreas is recoverable.
That was not part of my work product. That's correct.
And you were not asked to evaluate what the recovery factor in the ROZ might be under a CO2 flood. Agree?
Correct.
You are not asked to evaluate whether the purported ROZ in the San Andreas is economically recoverable. Agree?
Correct.
And you've not identified any facts or data that would support a conclusion that Goodnight's injection will result in waste of oil and gas. Agree?
Please state that again. I want that one to soak in.
You have not identified any facts or data that would support a conclusion that Goodnight's injection will result in waste of oil and gas. Agree?
I'm not sure that I can agree with that.
Okay. What facts or data have you identified that establish that there will be waste of oil and gas?
I think the proper characterization is that it may or could result in the waste of oil and gas.
Okay. So, but you would agree with me that you have not identified any facts or data that would support a conclusion that Goodnight's injection will result in waste of oil and gas. Agree?
To the extent I would change the will to may.
Okay. But you're saying, I'm just trying to get you to agree with me, right? You can't say, as you see here today, that there will be waste of oil and gas. Agree?
I don't know that I can agree because I can't say that there won't be either.
Okay. Well, I'll let you say it the way you want, which is that in your opinion that there may be, okay? But you've got nothing sitting here today that you can point to that shows that there has been, correct?
That would be correct.
Okay. And you're not offering, I think you already kind of said this in passing, but you're not offering any opinions or conclusions about petrophysics, correct?
That's correct.
Or how to properly analyze or how to properly conduct a petrophysical analysis, correct?
Correct.
And you haven't done a review to confirm whether new text analysis was done correctly, agree?
I agree.
Okay. And now, as part of your preparation for this testimony today, you did not review the EMSU unit documents or the Oil Conservation Commission case file prior to today's testimony, did you?
I did not.
And you did not review the EMSU unit hearing transcript or the exhibits from when it was presented to the commission and approved as a statutory water flood unit in 1984, correct?
I believe that's correct.
And you did not review any of the EMSU well files or production data, correct?
Not in recent history, no.
Not since 1988?
Exactly.
Okay. At the time you prepared your direct testimony in this case, were you aware that the EMSU had 6 water supply wells inside the unit that were completed in the San Andres that supplied all the makeup water for EMSU water flood operations?
I wasn't familiar specifically with 6 wells. I was aware generally that there were water supply wells.
Were you aware that they were completed in the San Andres within the EMSU?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Wouldn't that be important for your analysis or assessment of what's happening in the San Andres within the EMSU?
If they're San Andres water supply wells and they're not producing any oil, then they're not part of an ROZ. So I'm not sure that they would have a detrimental effect.
Okay. So at the time you prepared your written testimony, you were not aware that Empire calculates those 6 water supply wells have produced approximately 380 million barrels of water from the San Andres in the EMSU with no reported oil?
No, I was not aware of that.
Are you aware that those 6 water supply wells completed in the San Andres are in the same interval that Goodnight is targeting and has been currently disposing of injected water, of produced water?
No.
Were you aware that there are approximately 20 additional water supply wells that have withdrawn water from the San Andres in the offsetting acreage to the EMSU?
No.
At the time you prepared your direct testimony, were you aware that produced water disposal injection into the San Andres within the EMSU has been authorized in the same zone that Goodnight is targeting since the 1960s, approximately 24 years before the EMSU was even created in 1984?
To clarify, that produced water within the unit area has been disposed of in the unitized interval? Is that?
Yeah, maybe I'll help a little bit. Okay, I'm going to pull up what's been marked as exhibit. This is exhibit B47. This is Goodnight exhibit B47. Okay, and I presume, Mr. Merrick, that you have not seen this exhibit. Correct?
I'm not seeing it now.
I fell victim to my own, excitement. I didn't share it. Sorry, one moment. Do you see on your screen a map, Mr. Merrick?
I do.
Okay, this has been marked as Exhibit B47 from Goodnight's exhibits. I presume you have not previously seen this exhibit, correct?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Mr. Merrick, this was prepared by Goodnight Midstream's witness, Mr. Preston McGuire. It's based off of the Oil Conservation Division's data, and it shows the data first injection along with the cumulative volumes of produced water injected. And I'm zooming in to show you the EMSU unit, which is outlined in this green line. Do you see that?
Yes.
And within this green outline of the EMSU are all of the wells that have been approved for disposal within the San Andres Formation, including the unitized interval of the EMSU, okay? The first that's within the unit boundaries was commenced injection in 1966. And it's in this section 21 within the unit boundary, and it's injected a cumulative volume of over 43 million barrels. Were you aware that prior to the creation of the EMSU, there was already non-unit disposal occurring within the San Andres?
I was aware that there were disposal wells, but you just said non-unit water was being, in other words, off-lease water was being
Correct.
disposed of?
Correct.
Okay. No, I wasn't aware of that. Are we still connected?
Yeah, we are. I
was not-
apologize. I apologize. I went silent for a moment because I was reviewing my notes to determine if I had any more questions.
Okay.
I apologize, Mr. Merrick. I have a couple questions, I think maybe, or maybe one or two. Mr. Padilla asked you a question about your understanding or definition of a residual oil zone. Do you recall that question?
Yes.
And as I recall your response, it was that it's something less than what a water flood would target, right? Some oil saturations below what a water flood would target. Was that your understanding? Is that what you testified?
Yes.
What are the oil saturations that a water flood would target?
In a water flood, especially in these carbonate reservoirs, there's what we call a residual oil saturation to water. SORW would be the acronym. And that's the saturation, oil saturation below which the water will not displace oil in a water flood. And in the San Andres and other carbonates, that's typically a number in the 35 to 40 or even 45% of pore space. Of course, it varies project by project.
Okay, so in your understanding or your interpretation would be the residual oil zone would be something below those concentrations, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I think Mr. Hearing Officer, I don't think I have any further questions for Mr. Merrick. I would like to move. I'm trying to decide if I think this is part of the record already, his original testimony, but out of an abundance of caution, I would move the admission of Mr. Merrick's original testimony from the October 2023 filing as Goodnight Cross Exhibit number 12.
Is it already in evidence, Mr. Padilla?
Yes, it is. It's already in evidence.
What is, I'm assuming Empire has an exhibit number for it.
That's good, Mr. Hearing Officer. I've reviewed, and I don't think we have to move any other exhibits at this time.
Who would be Exhibit H?
Mr. Merrick's revised testimony, I believe, is revised Exhibit H. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
But this, I guess what I'm saying is Mr. Merrick's original testimony, which was filed with the division in October of 2023. I don't know if it's part of the record or not. And that's why it was out of an abundance of caution was going to move it as Goodnight Cross Exhibit number 12.
Any objection, Mr. Padilla?
Well, if it's a cross exhibit, I wouldn't have any objection, but the revised exhibit is the one that really matters as far as Mr. Merrick's testimony is concerned.
Okay, it'll be admitted as your cross-examination exhibit.
No further questions, Mr. Hearing Officer. I'll make the witness available for further cross.
Okay, we have 19 minutes to go before Chairman Rosatos's firm stop. So let me turn it over to you next, Mr. Moander. Questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Hearing Officer. I shouldn't be very long. So Mr. Merrick, this is Chris Moander, counsel for OCD. Good morning.
Good morning.
I've just got a few, I suspect, quick questions for you here, but I've got to go through them.
Sure.
My understanding is you didn't review any OCD filings in preparation to render your opinion in this matter. Is that right?
That's correct.
And so therefore you wouldn't have done any analysis of any of the exhibits or our filed testimony?
I believe that's correct.
And then would it be fair to say you have no opinion as you sit here today on OCD's case? Is that right?
That would be correct.
No further questions from OCD, Mr. Hearing Officer. Sorry.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Mr. Suazo, questions for Pilot for Mr. Merrick.
No questions from Pilot.
All right. Well, then we'll turn it over to the commission. Who wants to go first? Doctor?
Thank you, sir, for your testimony to us today. So I do have a couple of questions for you. My first one will be, do you have any experience with any ROZ field that has undergone excessive water injection similar to the San Andreas in question in this case?
I do have experience with some of the major fields that I mentioned earlier that had ROZs that have been pursued with time for CO2 injection in the areas of Wasson, Seminole, and some of those major fields in the Permian Basin.
So my question was very specific. So with these examples that you've mentioned, is there any of them that you can point out where there has been significant amount of water injected into any of the producing zones that you are aware of?
Oh, water injected into an ROZ, was that the nature of your question?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I apologize. No. In my experience, water is not injected into the ROZ. That's been the realm of CO2 enhanced recovery.
In any instances where an outside operator has been allowed to inject into a unitized unit. Now, my question to you is that when all these applications were filed, except the 1966 one, which was prior to the unitization around 1984, why did these operators not contest these saltwater injections wells?
I guess I don't know the answer to that.
Now, another question to you is, do you have any concern? You talked about the injection into the San Andreas will likely be detrimental to, let's say, the ROZ or the Greenberg. Now, my question to you is, do you have any concern with Empire injecting into the San Andreas?
Well, generally, the concern I have is for the high volumes of water that the commercial disposal operations operate with. They're just huge volumes of water being injected. Now, Empire, I believe, has disposed of some water into the San Andreas, but you're talking a few hundred barrels a day, maybe at the most per well, versus the commercial operations, which would be maybe 15,000 barrels of water per day. And in some cases, it's been much higher. So small volumes are inconsequential. To me, the large volumes from the commercial operations can be very detrimental.
So is there a threshold of the water volume that you can speak to the commission?
Not specifically. No, I'm sorry.
So you're talking about around 15,000 barrels. So do you believe even 15,000 barrels a day will not have any impact on the ROZ?
Well, I think it could have an impact on the ROZ. That's been my testimony.
So you made some claim in your conclusions, and I don't know if Mr. Padilla can bring that up, so that you can refresh your memory on that. So you made about 3 conclusions, and I do have more concern about the number 3. So if anyone can bring it up.
I'm actually looking at it and can address your question if you like.
Okay. So can you confirm to the commission if you performed any personal analysis to support your claim?
No, I have not. It's based largely on my experience.
Can you speak to the economical nature of the situation that we have in here, where there has been several volumes of water injected into San Andreas? How economical is that going to be if, let's say, the commission is to shut in all injection wells in this area? How economical this project is going to be based on your experience?
Well, the current operations are primarily in the Grayburg, and we're not talking here about changing anything with that. But anything should, let me put it this way, should high volumes of water be injected into the San Andreas and due to hydraulic fracturing find their way into the Grayburg, then that would have a negative impact on the continued operations of the water flood in the Grayburg zone. It would cause higher producing rates, meaning more expensive production. It could compromise the aerial or vertical sweep efficiencies, leading to a lower ultimate recovery. So that would be the concern, or one of the concerns, with the high volume water injection.
Thank you for that. And there has been water injection into that formation way back. We've seen from 1966. why is there no strong evidence based on reservoir engineering application principles showing clearly to the commission of what you just stated?
Well, we have not been tasked with doing an extensive reservoir engineering study, which could take a lot of time and be very expensive to do, but mainly it's the time constraint. So the impact of the water injection into the ROZ is has the risk factors that I think that I denote there in the third bullet item of my conclusions, that can cause fracturing and have a impact on the current operations in the field, in addition to being detrimental to the ROZ itself.
And I'm checking my watch here, so to make sure that I do not go over the time. But so another question for you is, as you review that cross section and then also the petrophysical properties, as you shown in your exhibit, can you confirm to the commission the average permeability in the San Andreas?
The average perm in the San Andreas, actually, I can go back to I thought I might have referenced that in our early COB reports, but no, and I'll speak from memory here that it's in the single to tens of millidarcy range. Of course, it varies, as you're probably well aware, in carbonate reservoirs. You have a high degree of variability in the permeability. We refer to that as the V factor, or Dijkstra-Parsons V factor. And so there is variability in the perm from low to high. But on average, my estimate would be that it'd be in the single digit to tens of millidarcies on average.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I can certainly get you a better number than that, than my poor memory can scrape up, because we do have that quantified. I'm just going on memory here.
Yeah, so, there has been a testimony by Dr. Walker, hopefully, yeah. So he did actual reservoir simulation analysis. Now, I want to ask you, so in his analysis, he used permeability range of 500 to 550 millidarcy in his simulation model to prove that there is a communication between the San Andreas and the Greenback. With your experience, have you seen that level of higher permeability to prove, let's say, a connectivity between two formations when, as you said, the permeability is about let's say, within a digit number?
No, that high a value surprises me, and I know Dr. Buckwalter, and I used his software and have for decades. So I'm a bit puzzled when you tell me he used 500 millidarcies. That surprises me.
Thank you for that. That surprises me too. So you talk about the residual oil saturations in carbonates, and you cited that you've seen a higher to about 45%. Can you confirm that?
In my experience, that ranges from generally 35 to 45%. If I'm starting a project in a carbonate reservoir and have no other data, I'll usually start at 40% as an estimate. There is, I'm taking the paper off of it. There is a wonderful old 83 publication by the Bureau of Economic Geology, and it's an atlas of major oil reservoirs in Texas. And that is one of the few places that in these fields will report a residual oil saturation which we would have to assume is residual to water back at the time that was published. So that's a wonderful resource for residual oil saturations. And in fact, I even have a digital, we digitize this data and put it in an Excel spreadsheet. So I refer to that often to retrieve these types of numbers, average permeabilities, residual oil saturation. It's got some very good data in it, porosity numbers. And I'll just tell you that it exists. I don't know if I'm at liberty to share it. There's nothing, what's the term I'm looking for, proprietary about it. It's just out of an industry publication.
Thank you for that. So my last question to you will be, so you've seen documented probably around 45%. Now, based on some of the testimony that we've listened to, there were saturations to about 60% shown based on adjustments of M&N parameters, and then which was not really justified by the Corps, but there is an example of, let's say, another type of assessment that you can get to that high saturations that was pointed to the commission. I want to ask you, assuming a saturation is about 50 to 60%, and there has been numerous water withdrawal wells within the EMSU, based on your experience, don't you believe that some of these oil, if exist with that extremely high saturations, would have been produced?
Now, are you referring to the ROZ or to the Grayberg or to both in that question?
This one is specifically to the ROZ.
To the ROZ, okay. I guess actually my thought on that would be that if it actually did produce some oil, then it wasn't really in the ROZ. It was in more of a traditional oil leg.
So then let me rephrase my question, and I have 3 minutes. So let me rephrase my question. So I'm saying that we've defined what an ROZ is, right? So if we are getting initial water oil saturation to about 60% shown to the commission based on well log analysis, would you classify such a reservoir as a conventional reservoir or as an ROZ reservoir?
Okay, I think I understand now. If the oil saturation is stated to be 60%, that does not strike me as an ROZ.
And therefore, that oil would have probably been produced with the numerous number of water withdrawal wells into the San Andreas. Would that be a fair statement?
That oil would be produced with the water supply wells?
With the water, yes, okay. That's my question.
If the oil saturation were indeed that high, I would expect those wells to have produced oil.
Thank you, sir. I do not have any further questions for you.
Okay, near perfect timing, Dr. Rampoma. Chairman Rosatos, what's your pleasure in terms of reconvening after lunch?
So again, I apologize for this, but I need to probably, we need to move it out. We need to do lunch until about 1:15. So can we reconvene at 1:15?
It's your pleasure. So
let's do 1:15.
All right. We'll be in recess then till 1:15. Everybody have a good lunch. Thank you.
Thank you all.